This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Hey guys, welcome to the Monday Night Raw review here on the WWE Podcast. The final Monday Night Raw before Bad Blood takes place this Saturday, 6 o'clock Eastern Time. And I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it on a number of levels. Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, I couldn't be more ready for. I'm also ready for it to end, but they reached a boiling point at the right time. And this match is going to be violent, bloody, exactly what a Hell in a Cell match should be. And to the day, it is 27 years to the day of the original Hell in a Cell. I think they will live up to the expectation here. So we'll break down the Punk and Drew McIntyre final confrontation. We had a heel turn, a major heel turn on Raw, one that I think was necessary. Maybe some of you saw it coming. I think I mentioned on the show that Miz has been kind of floating out there for a while without much to do. And he turned in their match with Awesome Truth versus AOP. Miz turns on R-Truth. We'll break that down as well. But first, I want to welcome you to the show. Stay with us all week, because if you want ad-free content, you heard some ads at the beginning of the show, maybe you're on the free feed still, well, you can check us out for free for 7 days, which means it covers all of the preview and post-show of Bad Blood ad-free over at patreon.com/WWE Podcast. You guys can check us out there and get an ad-free experience for 1 week, as well as Apple Podcasts for 1 full week. And if you like us, stick with us. If not, then no problem and no risk on your end. But I want to give a shout out to the latest members. Julian Holslag. I'm sorry if I butchered that. I can't even say my own name correctly. Zamir Williams. Tina Frey. Thank you. Thank you, Tina, Zamir, and Julian, for joining us over at Patreon. I hope you enjoy your ad-free experience. And you can join all of them and dozens more, hundreds more, really, over at Patreon and get an ad-free experience, as well as a Discord server that's available to patrons only, which is a separate little chat area for those of you who are patrons. And you can chat anytime, but it's especially fun during the events. So, all right, let's dive into Raw, guys. Let's start right at the beginning of Raw. We had McIntyre arriving at the arena, CM Punk shown backstage. Braun Strowman was entering the building with a dog on a leash. I don't know what it is with dogs. Maybe because, I don't know, are we supposed to make them more relatable? I don't know. This doesn't excuse Braun, I know, any more than it excused Cody, although Cody looks even more ridiculous in a suit walking a dog. But still, I don't get it. Maybe it's supposed to be just them in their natural habitat, pun intended. I don't know. But we had Tessitore and Wade Barrett in the ring. And Barrett told fans to enjoy the arena, as it's because it would not be the same after the last monster standing match. Of course, we saw at the end of Raw, Seth Rollins return, which I don't know how I didn't see coming. I really didn't, because I'm so focused on what was going on in the ring with Braun Strowman and Braun Reed. I think fans just want those two to fight forever. Did we get a fight forever chant? Maybe I missed it, but that deserves one. It's just so fun with those two just destroying everything in sight. But we got, let's see here, a Jey Uso walking with fans to him behind him to the concourse, and he walked through the crowd, and the fans chanted, "You deserve it." And Jey said it was special for him to walk to the ring for his first singles championship with his son behind him, and recalled being just a twin and how people didn't know him, but said they know him now, and his biggest fan is his mother. And Jey spoke to her, and she told him to go out and get it. And he said, quote, "I got it, and Mama, we did it." That's when Braun Breaker's music hits, and he said that he came out to join Jey inside the ring, and he wasn't there to spoil the fun or crash the party. He was there because because of the respect he has for the championship and the lineage of the title, which I like. He said that after battling with Jay last week, he has the same amount of respect for him, and Breakker said Jay was the better man last Monday. Breakker said he wouldn't spear Jay or attack him, but that he felt he should be the first person to come out as a competitor and a colleague to congratulate Jay. Breakker offered him a handshake, but Jay apprehensively accepted it, and then we had Jay say, "There's some dogs in Indiana, Oos," and Breakker smiled and exited the ring. So, is this a face turn for Braun Breakker? That's the question. It's a tough one. I'm leaning towards no. I think it's all a setup for Breakker to destroy Jey Uso and end up trying to take back. If not, he will win back the Intercontinental title prior to Jay going back to the Bloodline. I think that's very possible. It is also possible this is a true face turn. To see how the experiment of Braun Breakker as a babyface works, we'll see. I don't think fans trust him. I wouldn't trust him based on everything he's shown us in the past. We shouldn't trust him. He is a second away from spearing Jay into oblivion. And I think that's probably the road that we're taking to get Jay to trust Braun, only to turn on him. That's, I think, where we're headed. So let me know what you guys think. But, okay. We then had highlights airing of the backstage argument between Rey Mysterio and Xavier Woods that set up the match to continue for the further continuation of Xavier turning heel, which came pretty damn close to fully happening this week. We'll talk about that. All right, we got Rey Mysterio and Xavier Woods. Speaking of, the match ended in 8 minutes exactly with Xavier beating Rey, but the finish was Woods rolling up Rey to pin him, but then Woods hoisted up Rey, and the idea was that Rey slips behind him, but Woods fell down. When they stood up, Woods pulled Rey's mask off, and Woods looked horrified and then rolled up Rey for the victory. So Xavier ends up getting the victory after purposefully, I guess, pulling off the mask of Rey Mysterio. And the crowd was booing this and booing the victory of Xavier. Maybe the first time that Xavier has experienced boos in 10 years. But it was really nice to see the continuation of Xavier Woods down the dark path of heeldom. Took a big step forward this week with beating Rey, and there's nothing more disrespectful to a luchador than removing the mask. And that's, I think, that's what they were pointing to here. But not only removing the mask, and looks like he did it purposefully, but also taking advantage of said removed mask to win. You know, so taking advantage of the disrespect. It's a nice, but also it was a nice finish if you're trying to make Xavier into a heel at some point, which I think will come full circle in a month. But also there's a plausible deniability on Xavier's end that he's going to play that I didn't mean it. You know, I was just trying to win. You really think I did this on purpose? I mean, there is some plausible deniability there that he'll hang on to, but we all know that it's just BS. So a nice kind of thread the needle finish to close this match out. Zoe Stark. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's continue here with the backstage segment with Kofi and Xavier. Kofi asked Xavier if he intentionally removed Rey's mask, and Woods got defensive and said he would never do that. See, Kingston said that Uso offered him an IC title shot, and Woods said he'd be by Kingston's side when he climbs the mountain again, and Kingston said he actually told Jay that Woods deserves the match, and Jay agreed. Woods went from kind of mopey to happy and said he wanted to be in Kingston's corner for his match later in the show. And yeah, so interesting. All right. Well, Zoe Stark took on Lyra Valkyria, and this match was 7 minutes long with Zoe Stark getting the victory via a Z360. So has Lyra Valkyria won in about 2 months? I mean, I don't know exactly what they're doing with Valkyria. I don't think they know what they're doing with Lyra Valkyria at this point. It's kind of ambiguous. I don't know. She's here, she's there, but I don't know if she has a real clear direction. Same for Zoe Stark, even though she picked up the victory here. Doesn't really mean much, but after the match, Caden Carter and Katana Chance ran out to help Valkyria. So there's that, and then Carter and Chance hit their keg stand finish on DeVille and Baszler. Okay, we got a little bit of a a little bit of a, I guess, new rivalry going on here, but that's kind of it. Okay, let's continue. We got some highlights of SmackDown. We got Jackie Redmond interviewing Lyra, Caden, and Katana Chance, who wore a face shield, Carter did, and said the Pure Fusion Collective broke her face. And Chance said that the days of her, Carter, and Valkyria being known as the nice guys are finished, and they would be going after the tag titles. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn showed up and bickered with the baby faces, and then the Hell in a Cell lowered, and we got the next segment that I thought was very effective. All right, let's speaking of that, which I really, again, at the open of the show said it made it into a boiling point. It got to that boiling point that I think all of us wanted it to get to at the right time, and it peaked at the right time. This rivalry is peaking at the right time, even though it's been going on for 10 months, nearly 9 months, really, since the Rumble. So Punk comes out, and Pierce then introduced McIntyre, and McIntyre said he's going to go first for final words before the Hell in a Cell. Security guards are in the middle of the ring, and we had Punk glaring at McIntyre, and he said that he wore black out of respect for Punk's wife because she'll need to feed and bathe Punk, and she'll probably leave him after Hell in a Cell. And McIntyre said Punk wouldn't come back this time, and McIntyre said he could talk all day if Punk didn't want to speak. McIntyre took issue with the fans chanting Punk's name and led to a brief Punk chant. And then McIntyre said Punk taught him how to hate. And he said it's a powerful weapon if you use it correctly, but it's dangerous if it stays with you long term. And he continued to say that hate will die. All of the hate will die with Punk at Bad Blood. And it's just as he's about to leave, Punk grabbed the mic and said people have called him the best in the world, Second City Saint, voice of the voiceless. He said he was voiceless tonight because he has nothing to say to a piece of garbage like McIntyre. And he said he's filled with so much rage he can't go home. And he's been living in a hotel for 4 weeks because he can't subject his wife to the man that McIntyre turned him into. And that he has turned into the boogeyman that his harshest critics made him out to be. And that's who he needs to be to send McIntyre back to Scotland in a box. And he wants McIntyre to remember that he prayed for all of this, and that when they're locked at Hell in a Cell and Punk has taken everything from him, McIntyre will crawl and beg and then see, once he wipes the blood from his eyes, it's not a god or the devil that McIntyre will pray to. He'll be praying to CM Punk, and he'll see him in hell. So, effective. There's nothing left to say. Both men have said everything there is to say. You can feel the tension. When you can feel the tension at home, which doesn't happen often, a lot of times it's contrived, and you have to you almost have to force yourself to get excited for a program, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This one, it genuinely feels like these two don't like each other. I mean, I don't know if they actually do. It seems like McIntyre genuinely doesn't like Phil Brooks. I don't know how actually accurate that is. Only those backstage know, and only those that are named Drew McIntyre or Phil Brooks know that answer to that. But on camera, these two genuinely feel like they hate each other, and that's awesome. That's a difficult thing to do when you know you're watching a work, and I can feel the tension. It's the anticipation. You're ready. Bringing the cell down on these two was a perfect setting. It was a perfect platform for them to have their final words in before they go to absolute war. This is going to be bloody. It's going to be, as I said at the open, violent. I expect this match to go 15 to 20 minutes. Both men being busted open. I do wonder how they're going to bust each other open. Of course, not the hard way. I really hope not. They should blade. This is no news to them. I'm sure they know all the safety rules to make sure that they're doing this as safely as they can, and all the rest. But I don't think it's going to be a chair shot to the head. Maybe off the ring post. Some maybe off the cell wall would probably be the best way to do it too. And I mean, hell, Shawn Michaels did that. And actually, here's a fun spot. I know I talk about the 1997 Hell in a Cell a lot with Shawn Michaels and Undertaker, not just because it was the first one and two legendary performers, and every time those two were together, it was magic, and the story was just, it still draws me in. The promo videos, the dramatic music in the promo video for the Hell in a Cell still gets me to this day, 27 years later. But there's one spot before Michaels does get busted open, that he was being launched from the outside of the cell when they broke out into the side of the cell. You can see Michaels blade himself on the launch. That's where he bladed himself, was when he was being catapulted by the Undertaker into the cell wall. And it was done so quickly and brilliantly that, when I originally watched it, I never saw it until I got smart and understood what the business was and understood this is a work and all the rest. But perhaps that's what happens. Perhaps that's how it's done. But I'm looking forward to this, man. I don't know about you guys. Am I making it out to be Shawn Michaels, Undertaker? No. But this is what Hell in a Cell is deserving of. For all the years that we were subjected to Hell in a Cell, this is just a yearly tradition. We have multiple Hell in a Cell matches every year, and whatever happens to be going on, you guys get the cell match. No. I'm so happy that Triple H has tried to the best of his ability thus far to bring prestige back to Hell in a Cell. And he has been very successful in doing that, because for a while, Hell in a Cell matches were a dime a dozen. Oh, okay, Hell in a Cell. No, this is one that's deserving of it, and I can't wait. Okay, we had, let's see, backstage, Kathy Kelly asks Sami Zayn what he thinks it will take to get a world title shot, and Zayn took issue with the disrespect that Gunther has shown him, and he said that you'd think it wouldn't bother him by now, but it does, and someone was standing in the background. It was tough to make out who it was, but Zayn said he wouldn't quit until he gets his title shot. And then we get a match. Dom, JD, and Carlito versus Dragon Lee, Joaquin Wilde, and Cruz del Toro. Let's see. This match went 8.5 minutes with Dom, JD, and Carlito beating Dragon Lee, Joaquin Wilde, and Cruz del Toro by, let's see here, Morgan distracting the referee. Wilde went up top, and Balor showed up and shoved Wilde down, and McDonough hit Wilde with the devil inside and got the victory. Balor then joined the Judgment Day after the victory for the post-match celebration. A very dominant night overall for Judgment Day. A little more on that later. So we had Liv Morgan say that she is a home-wrecking, man-stealing, heartbreaking, title-taking, greatest women's champion of all time. I wonder how many times she had to practice that to make sure she didn't F it up. I'm not racking on her or trying to take her down or make fun of her or say it was pre-planned, even though it was. I give her credit. Things like that are, even if you rehearse it a lot, can be tongue twisters and you can easily trip yourself up on the mic. So let's say that all together. Ready? You're a home-wrecking, man-stealing, heartbreaking, title-taking, greatest women's champion of all time. Good stuff, Morgan. Good stuff. Love it. And Balor also told Priest that he intended to rip out his heart, and Balor said that he doesn't have a heart. Balor said that he will prove that Judgment Day never needed Priest, but Morgan interrupted here. I feel like we've seen this before. It's kind of rinse and repeat. They all run their mouths, and here comes Rhea Ripley. Kind of, I don't know. I feel like I've seen it, but Ripley comes out, and she said, she ran Dom into the shark cage twice after she did a little bit of mic work, which was just running down Dominic Mysterio, essentially. And Morgan went after Ripley and stopped Ripley. And stopped when she saw her coming, and then Ripley scared Morgan. She ran to the back, and she tossed Dom into the cage and tried to close the door, but Morgan came back and attacked Ripley from behind. Ripley and Morgan then fought on stage, and Priest in the ring. Priest set up McDonough for a chokeslam, but Balor cut him off. Eventually, the numbers game got to Priest, who got his ass kicked with 3 coup de grace, and as Joe Tessitore said, what was it, a slingshot, but I'm not getting on him at all for that. I mean, we did have Wade Barrett correct him in the next 30 seconds by repeating the move that Balor did on air without actually correcting him in the moment. Saying, "Oh, sling blade," right? That's not a complaint. Joe Tessitore, I know a lot of you aren't fans of him, have not really warmed up to him yet. I think he has done as good of a job as anybody could in that position, given how quickly he has had to take over the reins and run the ship. I give him all the credit in the world. So, dominant performance all the way around for Judgment Day on Raw, destroying Priest. Ripley ended up getting taken out by Morgan, and as we all have seen for weeks and weeks and weeks, Dom is going to get, and I said this before it even happened, that Dom is going to get zero offense in on Rhea Ripley unless it's an actual wrestling move, like one suplex, or she'll run into the ring post as he moves out of the way. It'll be something like that, which is just preposterous. That is the part I hate, that Rhea is allowed. She wants so badly to be in the men's division and wrestle men, except for they won't ever let her take any offense. The men are there to just be punching bags. It's stupid. It's completely illogical. As much as I have appreciated the Dom storyline and Rhea's progression and Liv Morgan's ascension to the top, which have all been excellent, the payoff is, the men just have to be subservient and let Rhea Ripley just kick their ass, because we can't ever have men retaliate, even in an environment that is pro wrestling. It's professional wrestling. We can't do it. Stupid. And I like booing Dom as much as the next person. I'm not sitting here saying I'm a Dom fan. I don't care who it is. It's just, all right. I've said my piece on it enough times too. I'm sure you're tired of hearing me say it, but I keep getting it in my face, and we'll continue to see it on Saturday night with Dom above the ring in a shark cage. But somehow, some way, Dom will get involved, which could end up in finally Rhea getting a riptide hit on Dom, which is, I guess, the payoff for this whole thing. And we'll see. But all right, so let's see here. We got American Made come out, and that led to a match here with Chad Gable versus Kofi Kingston. Oh, and R.I.P. Pete Rose. The WWE Hall of Famer Pete Rose died at 83, and they acknowledged it on air, and that was a nice touch here. But a video promo then aired of Io Sky and Kairi Sane, and they spoke about winning their match last week and challenged Bianca and Jade for the women's tag titles. Sky said damage control hasn't been the same, and the only way that it can be is to regain the titles, and that she's living rent-free in Belair's head. Okay. But as I said, American Made comes out, which is Chad Gable taking on Kofi Kingston. And this match was 9.5 minutes with Chad beating Kofi Kingston. Here's the finish, if you didn't catch it. Kingston followed Gable to the floor, dove onto Gable, and the Creeds from the ring steps. And Kingston then rolled Gable back inside the ring, ducked a swing from Julius, who was then tackled by Woods. Back in the ring, Kingston shot Gable into the ropes and went for Trouble in Paradise while Niall distracted the ref. But Woods tripped Gable, causing Kingston to crash and burn. Gable hit Chaos Theory and got the victory. And then Woods acted horrified that tripping Gable backfired and tried to explain himself to Kingston. This is just such a nice thing. That's the first storyline that New Day has been involved in a decade that I care about, which is just them breaking up. And that better be what this is leading to. If this is all just, imagine this is all a ruse. Imagine that. Imagine this is all an effing ruse. And in a month's time, whenever they have their final blow off, it's just Woods saying, you all thought I was going to turn. This is my brother, blah, 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 blah. They just have a tribute video and Big E returns. And it's all just one big, make out fest with those three. That would be the worst possible scenario. It's not probable. It's in the realm of possibility, but that'd be horrible. Horrible. If Vince McMahon were around, I could see it being a thing, but I don't think Triple H would mess around like that. At least I hope not. Okay. We have then a wide 6 video aired and a computer screen listed, "We see your intent and anger festering into rage, and do not go down this path, and it ends in your demise, and you know better," along with "heed our admonition. Never said that word in my life. Clearly. So then we get Gunther. Gunther comes out, and he complained about Sami Zayn being an annoyance. Sami comes out in his plaid, brawny type of attire, and said that if Gunther's so annoyed, there's an easy way to put an end to it. Zayn entered the ring and said all Gunther has to do is put his title on the line against him. Zayn said Gunther won't do it, and the reason is that they both know why. And Zayn told Gunther to admit why he won't do it, and Gunther said it's because Zayn isn't on his level. Of course, Zayn says it's because you know that I'm the one guy that's beaten you, and you're afraid if you put the title on the line, I will beat you again. And Gunther said he's afraid, but it's not of Zayn. He's afraid of his reputation. And then he said losing to a better man wouldn't have been a problem, but losing to the Intercontinental title to Zayn was the biggest embarrassment of his career. And he said he also flew his family out for the WrestleMania match, but he didn't parade them around like Zayn did. And Gunther said he had to look his father in the eye afterwards, and said that his father came all the way from Vienna to Philadelphia just to see him lose to a bum. And Gunther said his family expects everything of him because he's the golden goose of his family. He's special. And Gunther said he's something Zayn will never be, world heavyweight champion. And Zayn said Gunther crumbled when he lost in front of his family, and that he never asked for a rematch, and disappeared for WWE TV for months. And we had Zayn say Gunther was shown. He basically called him a coward. Gunther clotheslined him, which ended up in a brawl. Zayn hit the exploder suplex, tried for the haluva kick, gets a sleeper hold put on him, and then a power bomb, and tells Zayn he has his match. As we all expected, undoubtedly. And I have no doubt that this is going to be a fun match with moments that recall WrestleMania 40, where he hits Gunther with 3 haluva kicks, and it looks like he could win, and all the rest. I don't think that Zayn really has a shot here. I'll wait for my official prediction, guys, for later in the week. You'll hear it probably by Friday. Early Friday, I hope. And this match is all about just how good can the match be? How much can they convince us or put doubt in our minds that Zayn could win? That's what this match is about. This has nothing to do with Zayn actually winning. That would be preposterous. Gunther is just getting started. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe my opinion will change as we get closer, because there is some news here. Apparently Brock Lesnar has been put back on the Superstars page of WWE's website. And that's huge. That's, and has proven in the past, a sign that that whoever that person is close to returning to television, that they're preparing something for that person. And if Brock Lesnar is cleared and they have something for him, and he's not just cleared medically, if he has any issues, I don't think he does, but more in the Vince McMahon scandal, the sex scandal, the money laundering, or the hush money and all that Brock Lesnar was tied to originally. If he's been cleared of all those issues, then there's a good reason to bring him back. And is it for Gunther? Do they go right to it if Brock returns? Or does Brock Lesnar go after someone else? I mean, it's just something to think about. It's something to think about. Am I predicting that Brock Lesnar returns at Bad Blood? I am not. But there's a good chance that by at the very latest, I would say Rumble, at the Royal Rumble in just a few months, there's a good chance we'll see him at least by that time. So if they're bringing it back, I'm not saying for sure, but you don't put a star on your Superstar page that has had issues was kind of quietly suspended, then have him put back months later without having some kind of plan or at least some progress towards him being cleared to come back. Keep that for what it's worth. Make your own predictions and assumptions and assertions. But at this time, I don't think it's imminent. But at least in the next, I think, 3 months, it will be. All right, here it comes, guys. Big turn. Awesome Truth. Miz and R-Truth take on AOP, Akam and Razar, with Karrion Kross, Scarlett, and Paul Ellering at ringside. Truth was roughed up pretty good, and he made a hot tag. Miz fired up, and then wham! Hit Truth right in the head. Miz left the ring, tore off his Awesome Truth t-shirt, and AOP hit their What a Rush finish with Karrion Kross laughing, and then Razar pinned Truth. This match was just about 3 minutes long. I don't know what to make of this other than, okay, Miz needed something to do. I'm all for R-Truth getting as much exposure as possible, given how late he is in his career. I don't know what the end game is here. Are you really going to have R-Truth beat Miz in the end of this? I don't know. I mean, I don't know the payoff other than to turn Miz back heel. Apparently they need another heel. Miz never feels right as a babyface. I never buy it as a babyface. Although this latest run was his most convincing. I'm not going to take away what he has been able to accomplish as a babyface, even though the last couple months have been lame. Up to the build for WrestleMania 40, where they won the tag titles, they did a very nice job. Even Miz did a good job of being a babyface, but it never quite feels right. He has the very much a Charlotte Flair effect, whatever the hell she's coming back. But he does. He has the very much that feeling that it just never quite feels authentic when the Miz is a babyface. It just feels like he's filling shoes that he doesn't belong in. Miz is very much a guy that is born to be a heel and has that Charlotte Flair effect. I don't know if that's an actual diagnosis, but I'm making it one. So, R-Truth is going to get a little bit of an invigoration here, shot in the arm for his career. He needs it, let's be honest. He's been put on the shelf for a while and ignored largely since they lost the tag titles. So they both kind of need each other here. The turn makes total sense, not just for their program against one another, which will probably last a month, but more along the lines of turning Miz into a heel that they can use down the line for whatever they need to do with baby faces he needs to work with down the line. Maybe a Seth Rollins again or something along those lines. All right. So the match is official with Gunther and Zayn, but then we get to Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman. Tessitore noted that Strowman was 4-0 in last man standing matches. That's an interesting stat. 4-0. So going to 5-0 here. But Strowman clothesline Reed, the bell rang, and then they fought to the stage area. Reed hit a Death Valley driver off a production crate that led to both men crashing through two tables and continuing to beat the referee's 10 count. Reed shoulder blocked Strowman through a flimsy barricade in front of the timekeeper's area, and once Strowman beat the count, Reed speared him through the back wall of the timekeeper's area. Of course, Adam Pearce, who on a weekly basis has a stroke over somebody doing something. I mean, Adam Pearce, oh my God. Has there been a Monday Night Raw that Pearce has been the GM for and he has not ended up screaming at someone? I don't know if there has been one. And that's just what Adam Pearce does weekly. But Reed went up to the top and hit a tsunami. The referee was still at ringside. Reed hit another tsunami. And then Reed went to ringside and tossed the referee to the ground. And that's when Pearce went ballistic on Reed, who almost got his from Reed, who almost lost it on Pearce. Security ran over and waited while Strowman set up the top rope. And Strowman off the top rope onto all of the security, including Reed. And it's always funny. First of all, let me just compliment these two, as I've continued to say week after week. A matchup we didn't know we wanted, and one that is just highly entertaining from a pure, superficial, violent destruction standpoint. and I don't mean that in a negative way. These kinds of matches do have a place in pro wrestling, and I enjoy the hell out of them. I also enjoy the pace change of this match. It's two big guys. You're not going to see Hurricane Ranas. You're not going to see flips and flops and all the rest that you see with the rest of the roster. It's a nice palate cleansing change of pace of these matches. I like slower paced matches in between the constant 100-mile-an-hour style that today's pro wrestling is. So that's also nice. But my point about this was, of course, to compliment these two, but also the splash that we see. And we see this all the time when there's groups of people who cluster together and you see some going up top, right? Like, a splash is coming, a crossbody is coming from whoever, and people are grouped together to catch the person and to make it more visually stimulating that they took down like 48 people. But look at the fringes, like the outer circle of that pile of humanity. There is just no way. They just throw themselves to the floor. It looks ridiculous, but they have no choice. The alternative is to stand there, and then what do? So I get it. They're instructed to go down, but like no one's hitting them. They would never be brought down in that way, given the physics of what I'm seeing in front of my eyes. No one's touching them. They're brushed barely and they just collapse like a sack of potatoes. It's always funny to watch that because you can only expand the circle so much before it gets ridiculous. And they always kind of overlap on the ridiculous edge sometimes. I don't know. Kind of a complaint, but also you just shake your head and just go, ugh, I'm not a fan of it, but I know why they do it. Okay. But fun to see Braun Strowman go off the top rope. I don't know the last time I saw that. All right. Both men got up, though. Strowman rolled Reed back into the ring, went up top, and Reed launched a chair at Strowman that hit him in his shoulder. And Reed then superplexed Strowman, which collapsed the ring. Yes, we've seen that spot before. I think I alluded to this a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago that if they did this spot, it would collapse the ring, and I could see them doing this. And it happened, and it was done perfectly. Whoever tripped hit the trigger at the right moment made it look like that collapsed the ring. And sure, it made sense. Do people go down like they've been shot in the ring? No. Just because the ring collapses down a foot or two, everyone just looks like they've been killed inside the ring. But it's a cool visual. So I know why they do it. Again, another one of these, I know why they do it, but it's also you use a scrap of logic in this and it all falls apart. But it was a cool moment. Okay. It was a cool moment. They've done it many times before. The original, I think, was Brock Lesnar superplexing Big Show in like 2002 on SmackDown. That was a holy ass moment. I remember Taz on commentary with Michael Cole, I think it was. And that was a hell of a moment. They recreated it again, I think, with Brock Lesnar and Big Show another time. And then they did it with Mark Henry and Big Show, I think, at one point. So that's like 3. This might have been the 4th. I feel like there's another one. They've done it a handful of times before, but when it's warranted, it's effective. And this was effective. And this is where Reed ended up standing up, though. Seth Rollins comes out, stomps Reed's head onto a piece of the ring steps, and Strowman got to his feet, and he's the winner. So Strowman wins. Rollins costs Reed. I did not expect Rollins to come out, and the crowd loved Rollins. I will have to say the crowd wasn't particularly excited throughout the show. Maybe it's because babyfaces lost almost every single match, other than the finale here of the main event. But Evansville was not a particularly exciting crowd, I do have to admit. And this match, though, was 20 minutes long. Hell of a long match for two guys of their size. And I enjoyed it. I don't think this hurt Bronson Reed in any way. In fact, it elevated him. The loss here is not even taken into consideration when you look at the big picture of what this does for Bronson Reed, which is make him a Raw main eventer now, put him on the map in a big way, no pun intended, having a hell of a match with Braun Strowman. So he's capable of really good matches. He has a presence. He's main evented Raw. The crowd reacts to him. He's now working with Seth Rollins. So now he's not only in a loss being elevated by the fact that he is a main eventer of Raw. People know who he is now. Braun Strowman really had a hell of a hand in this, so credit to Braun Strowman. But he's being now given a promotion to work with Seth Rollins, even in a loss. So there's nothing but good things here for Bronson Reed. And for Braun Strowman, I don't know what he does now. Maybe go back to just, I don't know, roaring and being the hall monitor for bullying around the company. I don't know what it, because remember he had a thing for bullies, even though he's the one that picked the fight with the Judgment Day week after week after week. Kind of a hypocritical thing he's done for how many months he worked with the Judgment Day, but he picked the fight constantly. So, but I don't know what Braun Strowman does. Maybe he goes back to just being a choo-choo train. They can put the train's, a soundbite in the speakers as he runs around the ring for 10 minutes. I don't know. So I don't know what he does. But for Bronson Reed, we know what his path is, and that's Seth Rollins. So effective Raw, one that was, I think, as good as you could expect one realistically to be, leading up to a PLE of Bad Blood, and we'll see how SmackDown follows in kind. We'll see how that follows. I expect a SmackDown that is heavy on promos, as a lot of these post or pre PLEs are, with the final says and the final face-offs and the final this or that with the opponents. So it's going to be fun. I think that this is an event that's going to have massive implications heading into WrestleMania season. Because yes, we have Survivor Series coming up, but also we have a PLE in between that called the Beloved Crown Jewel. So, all right, well, that'll conclude my Raw review. But one thing, and I was going to mention it at the beginning of the show, and I completely forgot. If someone would like to take the reins of the After Dark show, the spot is open. So what is the After Dark show? After Dark is an adult version of this show. It doesn't have to be about wrestling, but it can be. It shouldn't just be vulgar because you can be vulgar, okay? It is only for those of you who are on Patreon at the NXT Plus tier and above. And it can be other topics. I would stay away from politics, okay, because I already have a show for that. It's called The War on Truth. If you want to hear me talk about things other than wrestling, it's called The War on Truth. Check me out. But it can be about anything, but within reason. I don't want people talking about just gross stuff because they can. Something tasteful, thought out, but it's a kind of muzzles off type of show. Put the women and kids to bed, as they say. But that is open. So if anybody is interested in an After Dark weekly show here on the WWE podcast, it'll be for patrons only. Okay, it's not going to be on the free feed. Email me, mailbag@wwepodcast.com. That is the email as we shift gears here with our After Dark show. And if you're interested and you have some good ideas and you think you can do this on a weekly basis, consistency is a big deal. So if you can do this on a weekly basis, it can be 20, 30 minutes long. It can be about nearly anything within reason. Use your brain, okay, about the things that we probably shouldn't talk about that are just, or blatantly, inappropriate to talk about. But really, there's a whole range of things you can. And so use your brain. It can be about wrestling too. If you just want to go off the cuff and talk about wrestling in a way that you don't have to worry about censorship, that's a way you can do that too. But also, the only other thing I ask is that you have an external mic. I don't want people using the internal mics or the laptops or their PCs. It sounds horrible, right? So, quality microphone, intelligence, and a passion for what we're talking about, and you can do it weekly. That's all I ask. And if you're interested, shoot me an email for After Dark. All right, that'll do it for me here on the WWE Podcast. We'll be back with our preview show / mailbag on Friday as early as possible. I promise I'll try to get it to you as early as possible on Friday. And then we'll be off to the races with the actual PLE Bad Blood. If you want to go ad-free, patreon.com/WWE Podcast is the place to go, or on Apple Podcasts. Thanks, everybody, for listening. As always, take care. I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.